is not those who lack energy or refrain from action, but those who work without expectation of reward who attain the goal of meditation. Theirs is true renunciation. Therefore, Arjuna, you should understand that renunciation and the performance of selfless service are the same. Those who cannot renounce attachment to the results of their work are far from the path. For aspirants who want to climb the mountain of spiritual awareness, the path is selfless work. For those who have ascended to yoga, the path is stillness and peace. When you have freed yourself from attachment to the results of work and from desires for the enjoyment of sense objects, you will ascend to the unitive state.
And that's the goal of yoga, right? Union. Mm-hmm. That's what the word yoga means, to yoke.
Yeah. The unitive state.
Yeah.
To let go. I think Krishna is actually going to explain it here, but it's to let go of the ideation of the self with the lowercase s and more of a submission to the uppercase S self. And Krishna will explain that. Reshape yourself through the power of your will. Never let yourself be degraded by self-will with a lowercase s. The will is only the friend of the self with an uppercase s, and the will is the only enemy of the self.
I think that's worth talking about. Yeah. What do you think that means?
Well, that brings to mind the adage that I'm pretty sure I've said and most people have heard. The ego is a horrible master, but a beautiful servant. Mm-hmm. Right? So the self with a lowercase s is a horrible master, but a beautiful servant.
Yeah. I agree. That's how I read that as well. It's interesting because in my version, he says the self is the only friend of the self, lowercase s, uppercase s, right? And in this translation, he, instead of using lowercase s self, he talks about the will, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
The will, like willpower, right? When it's in the lead, it's the enemy of the self. When the self is in charge of the will, then it is the friend of the self, right? The servant.
I always like to ask that to people because it seems like when we do encounter the self with an uppercase S, there is a changing of will. There's always willpower, right? There's always action. There's always energy coming forth from this instrument of the body, it seems. But yet when we, in meditation, when we touch upon our greater essence, there seems to be, personally speaking, and also from what I've witnessed in others, a changing of, maybe you could say character, like a changing of how that willpower is utilized. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's exactly what Krishna's talking about here. I read a book recently called The Varieties of Religious Experiences by William James. It's an old classic in psychology, or I think it's the philosophy of religion technically, but he talks about how there's a shift that occurs in the moral center of gravity of a person when they have spiritual or religious experiences. And I thought that the moral center of gravity, right? Like, so where's your moral center of gravity when you're in the ego? And is it different than when you dwell in the uppercase S self, right? Yeah. So I like the idea, the imagery of a center of gravity, a moral center of gravity. Your priorities shift, your standards shift, everything shifts with this center of gravity. So I think that's also what we're describing here. When you dwell in the self, you are centered, and that's where your center of gravity is going to be. When you dwell in the ego or the will or the lowercase s self, that's where your center of gravity is. And it makes for a very different lifestyle and just approach to life in general.
For sure. I like the metaphor of gravity because just think of what it is. It's what you're pulling in. So essentially it's like you're pulling in and attracting and manifesting different things for your being. Yeah. And then I think you pull in good stuff and you also put out good stuff. You know, I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. As you reap, so shall you sow, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, man. All right. That's
good stuff. We're just getting started.
Yep.
To those who have conquered themselves, the will is a friend. but it is the enemy of those who have not found the self within them. The supreme reality stands revealed in the consciousness of those who have conquered themselves. They live in peace, alike in cold and heat, pleasure and pain, praise and blame. They are completely fulfilled by spiritual wisdom and self-realization. Having conquered their senses, they have climbed to the summit of human consciousness. To such people, a clod of dirt, a stone, and gold are the same. They are equally disposed to family, enemy, and friends, to those who support them and those who are hostile, to the good and the evil alike. Because they are impartial, they rise to great heights.
This is like, this is the Tao Te Ching, dude. Like word for word. Let me find it.
The way is the way is the way.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it funny? The Tao doesn't take sides. It gives birth to both good and evil, right? It's impartial, right? It treats the good person and the bad person alike. And the Tao describes the sage in this way as well, right? Doesn't care more about one person than it does for another. It's impartial.
Yeah. Impartiality.
Yeah.
It's important.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of parallels I found. And I could pull up the actual passages, but we can save that for another day.
Yeah. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, man.
Those who aspire to the state of yoga should seek the self in inner solitude through meditation. With body and mind controlled, they should constantly practice one-pointedness, free from expectations and attachment to material possessions. Amen.
Yeah.
So here's the technique, I guess Krishna is going to explain. Select a clean spot, neither too high nor too low, and seat yourself firmly on a cloth, a deerskin, and kusha grass, which I don't know what kusha grass is, but I do know another form of kush grass. I don't know if he's referring to that kind of kusha grass, though. Although that could be an aside. You could talk about the aid of using kusha grass with meditation. I believe that is actually helpful, at least for me.
Yep.
That's a whole other topic, though. Then, once seated, strive to still your thoughts. Make your mind one-pointed in meditation, and your heart will be purified. Hold your body, head, and neck firmly in a straight line, and keep your eyes from wandering. With all fears dissolved in the peace of the self, and all actions dedicated to Brahman, controlling the mind and fixing it on me, sit in meditation with me as your only goal. With senses and mind constantly controlled through meditation, united with the self within, an aspirant attains nirvana, the state of abiding joy and peace in me. That's powerful stuff, man. And I think that might seem like a lot to somebody that doesn't know how to meditate, really. Because I see it as a skill. And there's a lot of people that I speak to, they say, Gary, I just can't meditate. And they say, my mind just goes to and fro. And there's excuse after excuse of why they can't meditate. And I understand where it comes from, but I'm here to say you can meditate. Everybody can meditate. You know how I know? It's because we're human and you have lungs. You can breathe. We all can meditate, but you have to learn it like a skill. Just like how to hit a baseball, you have to practice it. You have to do it with diligence. You have to do it with discipline. And then eventually someday you'll be able to hit a 90-mile-per-hour fastball down the middle. You just have to do it with repetition over and over again. And you will be able to, if you practice meditation, seated, just dedicated meditation to Krishna, dedicated meditation to the uppercase S self. If you practice that every day, every other day, whatever it is, with discipline, you will be able to, and this sounds a little grandiose, but you will be able to connect with a higher sense of yourself. You will be able to connect with God, with Krishna. Not off the bat, you do have to learn the technique, but eventually you can and will get there. It's possible for all of us. It seems crazy, right? Because most people say they can't do it and we just do it for peace. But eventually down the line, if you will come to find, with an earnest interest in meditation, like I said, with um, very strict discipline to it, you connect with God. And it's not like connecting with God like one may think in a dogmatic form. It's the God within. It's finding out really what God means. And I don't even like to use that word, but you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, bro. It's the experience of God. I think that's the problem, is that people talk about God, they write about God, they talk about knowing God, but very few people actually experience God. And that experience is always there. So that connection that you're describing, it's not like you're creating that connection through meditation. Meditation clears all the junk away so that you can actually realize that that connection has always been there and it's vibrant and alive. The story that you said about people telling you, I can't meditate, my mind wanders, to use the baseball analogy, that'd be like me saying, I can't play baseball, the ball's too small and I always miss it when I swing.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, well, yeah, because I don't play baseball. If I practice for a few months, I'm sure I'll be able to hit the ball after a while, right?
Yeah.
It's the same with meditation, right?
Yeah. I like to say also, for anybody listening, or you, Oliver, just like any other skill, it's good to have a teacher. It's good to have somebody guide you to it. I mean, you could figure it out yourself for sure, but I had, it wasn't a dedicated teacher. It was actually an app that I used, but still, it was some kind of teaching.
A guide,
exactly. So I recommend anybody that says that to me, I'm saying you have to, just like trying to hit a baseball, just like learning guitar, whatever it is, any other skill, you don't have to, but it will help you tremendously if you have some sort of guidance on the path. And
absolutely.
Once you do, like once you get the skills down and you can actually do it by yourself, that's when connecting with Krishna comes in.
Yeah. And for the audience, it could be Krishna, Christ, God, Tao, well, you name it, right? Allah. Source, universe, Allah, whatever. You got it, buddy. Yeah. Again, semantics. Talking about God is not the same as experiencing God and experiencing the truth of God. Yeah. And when you talk about God, names are convenient. But once you have the experience of God, it's like they say in the Tao Te Ching, man. If it can be named, it ain't it. So it's beyond naming. But yeah, I like this though, because you're right. This brief description of meditation is not exactly like, it's not precisely like the meditation that I've been taught in terms of focusing on your breath or using your body as a means to entering the meditative state. And here he says, concentrate your entire mind on me. Yeah. So that's a very different form of meditation. It's not focusing on the breath. It's focusing your entire mind, your entire being on God, whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
So very different, as you said.
Mm-hmm. There's levels to it.
Arjuna, those who eat too much or eat too little, who sleep too much or sleep too little, will not succeed in meditation. But those who are temperate in eating and sleeping, work and recreation, will come to the end of sorrow through meditation. Through constant effort, they learn to withdraw the mind from selfish cravings and absorb it in the self, capital S. Thus, they attain the state of union. When meditation is mastered, the mind is unwavering, like the flame of a lamp in a windless place. In the still mind, in the depths of meditation, the self reveals itself. Beholding the self by means of the self, an aspirant knows the joy and peace of complete fulfillment. Having attained that abiding joy beyond the senses, revealed in the stilled mind, they never swerve from the eternal truth. They desire nothing else and cannot be shaken by the heaviest burden of sorrow.
I like the metaphor of the flame in the lamp in a windless place. It's a still flame.
Yeah. And the opposite image of the mind as this like flickering flame that's constantly moving and undulating, right? Yeah. You're right. That's a really good image. All right, man. The practice of meditation frees one from all affliction. This is the path of yoga. Follow it with determination and sustained enthusiasm. Renouncing wholeheartedly all selfish desires and expectations, use your will to control the senses. Little by little, through patience and repeated effort, the mind will become stilled in the self. So again, in case it wasn't clear when Gary was saying it, little by little through patience and repeated effort. It's not going to happen the first time you sit on your kusha grass cushion.
Mm-hmm. Straight from the mouth of Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is also a Buddhist idea, renouncing selfish desires. Just desire altogether seems to take us away from the self with a capital S. Seems pretty simple.
It does, but it's interesting because desire seems to be the engine of activity. Like it's the driver of action in a lot of ways, right? I mean, it motivates us, it drives us to do things. So I always think it's attachment to desire. Desires can come and go. You can have desires, but as long as you're not attached to them, then they won't control you.
Mm-hmm. Selfish.
It'd be nice to not have. Yeah, that's right. It would be nice not to have desires to contend with, but if you're like me, you probably have them. And so the key is to stay removed from them or detached from them.
Yeah. I would say the essence is to be free from, I mean, like he says, the expectation of what you get from the desire. It's recognized that, just being in the humanly vessel, there's going to be obviously desires of the body. Basic desires is just to eat and sleep.
Yeah.
Those are the basic ones right there.
Yeah.
They're going to happen. We're going to have things that are going to, I was going to say impede. I don't know if that impede is the right word, but I'll say it. They're going to impede on our will in a certain way. Like they'll kind of like almost take over. Like think about when you go without a meal, right? That's the only thing, that's the only desire that's in your head, right? Is to eat or drink, especially when you get really thirsty, right? That's the only thing. It's the only desire you have. So I guess it's like, yeah, you can talk about those very primal desires as well, but all desires are the same essence. It's like they take off hold of your actions and how you decide to conduct yourself. But as long as you can see that, as long as you can have that awareness of what the desire is doing or trying to do to your will, I think that is the practice of meditation, is being aware of how thirsty, hungry, horny, whatever it is, whatever's coming through, be aware of that and don't let it be the master of your actions.
That's right. Yeah.
If you let that be the master, you're already lost. You know, if you let that dictate you, you lost the game. And that's the practice of meditation, is being able to just stay centered in that, to know that like it's going to happen, but I'm the captain.
That's right. Yeah. Not being driven by those desires. Yeah. Very good. Wherever the mind wanders, restless and diffuse in its search for satisfaction without, lead it within.
There it is.
Train it to rest in the self. Abiding joy comes to those who still the mind, freeing themselves from the taint of self-will. With their consciousness unified, they become one with Brahman. Yeah, so you were saying, there it is. Whenever the mind wanders in search of satisfaction out there, lead it back within yourself. Yep. Man, what a sound piece of advice that is.
Yep.
I always tell people the way out is within. If you're looking to escape something, a situation, a job, a relationship, the way out always lies within. You can't escape it out there. You got to find the escape within yourself first.
Yeah, man. And you know how many times I've heard that and how many times I've said that and then I get sucked in.
Same here, brother.
It's wild.
It's hard to practice what you preach sometimes.
That's why we meditate regularly, so that it's, you know, I like to think the path isn't just something where it just happens like this. It's a path of, some say, lifetimes of refinement, where it's like we're slowly but surely working our way back to Brahman. And we may mess up along the way, but thankfully Brahman forgives and allows us other chances to come back to him. And that's the path. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. So we keep going every day that goes by, at least knowing that there is a self, there is the capital S self, is, I believe you're already on the right path, but it's not going to happen overnight.
No, very true.
Which is good. You know, that means it's like no pressure. Yeah. It's like, there's no pressure, but still you should be pretty adamant on reaching the self. It's like,
yeah, there's no pressure because you're going to get there eventually, regardless of what you do or don't do in this lifetime. But how long do you want to how long do you want to fuck around, right?
Yeah.
Like, how long do you want to suffer? Basically, it's
That's
just no
it.
rush. Brahman doesn't care. It's all the same to Brahman. It's all here now. But for us, it's like, how many lifetimes do you want to bang your head against the wall? How many lifetimes do you want to spend in misery and suffering and longing for things, right?
Yeah.
So it's really up to us as an individual, as a person, to decide how long we want to fuck around.
We have eternity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no timeline here. You're not going to run out of time, but eventually you're going to want to come home.
It's the beauty of it. We have eternity. Side note, I don't even know if I'll put this in, but side note, because I just came to my head.
Yeah.
The difference between Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy, I came to this conclusion. Eastern, it's like, yeah, we live forever. That's not a good thing. You don't want to live forever. Western philosophy is like, don't you want to live forever? Believe in this. That's the dichotomy between the two, right?
Wild, eh?
Yeah.
I feel like one of those is a lot wiser and more mature than the other. I feel like the Eastern view is more mature. It reveals more life experience, because it's like, shit, do I really want to do this over and over again? Like, damn. Whereas like the sort of Western, Judeo-Christian view is a little bit more childish in that, like, my 7-year-old is doing this right now, where every night he's like, I don't want to die. And he starts thinking about death. Yeah. Right.
Wow.
Which 7? Oh yeah. Yeah. All my kids have done that. Eventually they all come to that realization pretty early on, but once they get past it, it's okay. It's just for a little while there, it sketches them out, but it's like, that's a childlike response. Whereas the more spiritually mature view of death is that it's nothing. It's just another change. It's just another transformation. Right.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that way.
I think you're right on that. Eastern philosophy seems to be more mature, less, I don't know, just like different priorities, less fear oriented.
Mm-hmm.
It's more, what's the word I'm looking for? There's more
Agreed.
There's more, I'm trying to think of the right word. Self accountability in it. It's less so like looking for don't you want to believe in Jesus? He'll free you and you can live forever. It's totally different. It's a different kind of, it's like the other side of the coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I can see where they relate in some way, but it's like the complete opposite of Western philosophy.
Yeah, on the surface, I agree. And I think what you're saying is what you're hinting at there is that maybe underneath the surface level appearance of the sort of Western Judeo-Christian mythos, there are similar, if not the exact same conclusions as we find in the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. Yeah. It's just buried deep. Whereas these poets in India, they were basically telling it to you straight up without a whole lot of coded language or metaphors. Whereas if you go into the Bible, you have to dig deep and you really have to you know what I mean? Yeah. You have to do some work to get to those insights because they're buried. They're not just at the surface.
You know what might have something to do with that is they're the same lessons in their essence if you know how to look with a keen eye. But I think it's because the Bible is literally younger than the Gita or the Vedas. So I guess they're the same lessons, but literally those lessons have probably been lost in translation along the years. Yeah. I don't know when the Bhagavad Gita was written. I'll look it up. I'll put it on the screen, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot older than the Bible and different language. I'm pretty sure all religion stemmed from India, to be honest with you, or that like the Orient, I guess you could call it. Yeah. So I think the Bible in its essence is the same lesson of that self-accountability. I even think meditation is described in there as well, but it's just the verbiage is just much different. Yeah. Like I said, how many different languages was it translated from? So I think it's just like in the tree of knowledge, right? In the tree of divine knowledge that was given to us. It's just further along the path and it's kind of strayed away from the evolutionary branch is like a little bit out here when the Bhagavad Gita is more at the essence, at the core,
the root. The root. Yeah, I agree.
That's why. I don't know, just throwing it out there.
No, I would have to agree with you. And I think you're right. I'm convinced that the Indians were the first to hit on some of this stuff and that it spread from India and even the Tao Te Ching and stuff. Like there's too many uncanny resemblances for it to not have some connection. Like we know that, for example, Buddhists in India went up into China and into Japan, and that's how we got Zen Buddhism and stuff like that. So we know that there was like like travel and exchanges of ideas between those parts of the world. So it really wouldn't surprise me if India and sort of the Vedic philosophy that it put down many, many centuries ago was the source of many other religions.
I think so. I think so, man. That has
Yeah.
me. I mean, this is a whole topic for another video.
Yeah.
But that has me thinking, like, where did that come from? Why was it there? You know, why that location? Where did this? Why were these people?
Yeah.
Humans were all over the earth, right? I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but humans, there was, for the most part, we were scattered. But why?
Yeah.
In this part of the earth, why were they a little more enlightened? It seemed. I don't know.
Yeah, could be that they had more time. They've been around longer, and they just had more time to develop these things. Because they were an ancient. There was an ancient civilization there before there was and I shouldn't even be saying this because I'm not fully aware. Like, I don't have the education, but I'm pretty sure that there was an empire that existed there. And then a bunch of migrants came through and took over. And we don't really know much about the empire that was there before this mass wave of migration. But we know that they had already established a lot of these ideas and practices. So like thousands and thousands of years ago. So who knows how long they were practicing before that, because we don't really know their history. But I think it's just they had more time, and they had their methods were to go into the forest and to look within yourself. And that's how they came to all of these discoveries, like the Upanishads right here. These are all just poems of like these dudes out in ashrams by themselves, just studying within themselves, and everything that they discovered, this is what they laid down in these books. So it's a totally different, they were fully inward focused, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Whereas I think in the West, the focus was more external.
Yeah. They had the time.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a big part of it. And they probably had relative peace for a long time, so they weren't too busy fighting. Yeah. Like, if you look at the Judeo-Christian tradition, the Jewish people were sandwiched between empires their whole existence, right? Egypt, Babylon, right? Persia, Rome, right? Like they were constantly, they were this tiny little kingdom surrounded by these massive empires. So they didn't have as much time and leisure to really philosophize. You know what I mean? They were constantly being subjugated or, getting like conquered and moved to Babylon. And they didn't really have a chance. So that could be it too.
Yeah. No time for meditation when you're trying to survive.
That's right. Yeah. You're constantly being persecuted and all this stuff. So shall we move on?
I think so. Yeah. Where were we?
28. The infinite joy of touching Brahman is easily attained by those who are free from the burden of evil and established within themselves. They see the self in every creature and all creation in the self. That's capital S. With consciousness unified through meditation, they see everything with an equal eye. I am ever present to those who have realized me in every creature. Seeing all life as my manifestation, they are never separated from me. They worship me in the hearts of all, and all their actions proceed from me. Wherever they may live, they abide in me. When a person responds to the joys and sorrows of others as if they were his own, he has attained the highest state of spiritual union.
There it is, man.
Yeah.
We, not only yoke and form union with God of Krishna, but also with every single thing here. Sometimes I like to think of God as not just the creator, but also the creation. I think that's that's a more relatable form of idealizing God, I guess you could say. Don't think of him as some kind of divine thing that somehow formulated us in the world. That might be true. I actually do believe that is true. But just think of the creation itself. Isn't that godly? Isn't that enough? So in that essence, if we're all part of this creation, then we're in this together. We're in this divine creation together. And once you see it, I don't know, you can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. I think that is truly where the path of meditation leads, is finding our connection with truly all parts of this creation. Seeing it is all part of it. It's all essentially me. It's me and you. It's all me. You're me. It's wild. But I think that's
correct. And you're
that's,
me. We're we.
I think that's where this leads. This whole thing leads to that, is like, yeah, you can have this connection with God and your will changes. Yeah, but it really comes down to, because one has realized that there's no separation. At the end of the day, there's really never was and never will be any separation between you, me, and the listener. We're all a part of this one organism. There may be perceived separation, that's just part of the game. But really, when it comes down to it, we are all just pretty much the creation playing with itself, the creation creating itself.
Yeah, I agree. I think the metaphor of Shiva is better than the sort of Western Judeo-Christian model, like what you're describing, the creator and the creation, right? Like, I'm the creator and I've just created this, and this is separate from me. It's my creation. I'm not in it. Whereas Shiva, her entire dance is the universe. So it's like, instead of creator creation, it's dancer dancing. That's the universe.
Dancer dancing.
It's right. It's the dancer dancing. So you're the dancer, right? Like, you're not separate from the dance and the dancer. You're part of the dance. Yeah. So you are the dancer, right? You're Shiva. Like, right now, you're a part of Shiva, creating and destroying as you go, right? Manifesting and dissolving things as you go. That makes a lot more sense to me than the creator creation metaphor. So I completely agree with you. Mm-hmm. When you start to realize that you are the dance, then you can really start to dance.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. And then, the notion of responding to other people's joys and sorrows as your own, I think that's empathy. That's ultimate empathy, right? That's like when you realize that, like, your struggles are my struggle. Yeah. And it's not just like, oh, not my problem. It's like, oh, it is very much your problem, because it's you. It's literally you. So yeah, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm. One might say, well, I have enough to worry about. Why would I have to worry about other people's struggles? I can understand that. But I don't know.
It's not about worrying them. It's about feeling their struggles, right? It's not about worrying for them, because worry doesn't really get you anywhere.
True.
But yeah, I agree. If you've got your hands full with your own issues, you probably don't want to suffer other people's traumas and, pains as well, right?
Yeah. It's like, it's the truth. So either way, you can ignore it or you can embrace it. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you ignore other people's struggles, it's only going to make you struggle somehow, some way. Like, you have to embrace that. Yeah. We're all in the struggle, and mine is yours. We're all suffering, but essentially it's all of our suffering collectively. Yeah. I don't know. It seems like a lot. It really does, but it's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that it's necessarily something that you force upon yourself or that you practice. It just kind of happens naturally, at least in my experience. I find myself getting emotional for other people's problems. Like, I have friends who are struggling with depression, and I'm hearing about their struggles and how they feel, and I'm feeling it too. Like, it's not like I'm trying. It just, I feel it. I start tearing up. I start feeling, emotions, and it's just, it just happens naturally. So it's not like if the audience is watching this and they're like, oh, how do I get to that point where I see other people's sorrows as my own? It's like, you follow the meditation that we're describing here, and it'll just happen naturally. You don't have to force it. It just happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep.
Just happens.
It does. It does. If you follow the other steps. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This comes along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
The way.
The way. 33. You want to switch?
Yeah, sounds good. I will be Arjuna.
Okay.
Oh, Krishna, the stillness of divine union which you describe is beyond my comprehension. How can the mind, which is so restless, attain lasting peace? Krishna, the mind is restless, turbulent, powerful, violent. Trying to control it is like trying to tame the wind. True that. Krishna responds, it is true that the mind is restless and difficult to control, but it can be conquered, Arjuna, through regular practice and detachment. Those who lack self-control will find it difficult to progress in meditation, but those who are self-controlled, striving earnestly through the right means, will attain the goal. Amen. I think we've already said that enough.
Yep.
Arjuna
worth repeating.
Yeah. Hey, true. Yeah. Always keep that in the back of your head. Yeah. Krishna, what happens to one who has faith but who lacks self-control and wanders from the path, not attaining success in yoga. If he becomes deluded on the spiritual path, will he lose the support of both worlds, like a cloud scattered in the sky? Krishna, you can dispel all doubts. Remove this doubt which binds me. Arjuna, my son, such a person will not be destroyed. No one who does good work will ever come to a bad end, either here or in the world to come. When such people die, they go to other realms where the righteous live. They dwell there for countless years and then are reborn into a home which is pure and prosperous. Or they may be born into a family where meditation is practiced. To be born in such a family is extremely rare. The wisdom they have acquired in the previous lives will be reawakened, Arjuna, and they will strive even harder for self-realization. Indeed, they will be driven on by the strength of their past disciplines. Even one who inquires after the practice of meditation rises above those who simply perform rituals.
So even just inquiring about meditation is better than performing all of the rituals.
Right? Yeah.
That's wild.
I believe that 100%. That's kind of just like what we touched upon with Eastern meditation, with the meditation ideals of Eastern philosophy and Western dogma. Even if you just have a hint of what the yogis and the sadhus and the monks are talking about, I think that's way better than forcing yourself to go to church on Sunday and listen to the guy in the collared shirt.
Yeah, and do the Hail Marys and do all the
I think
kissing the rosary or whatever they do, like all those rituals.
Exactly. Just knowing about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know that that's a thing and what meditation will truly bring in one's life. Yeah. So just a simple what's that about?
Yeah. What is meditation? I wonder if I should look into that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Through constant effort over many lifetimes, a person becomes purified of all selfish desires and attains the supreme goal of life. Meditation is superior to severe asceticism and the path of knowledge. It is also superior to selfless service. May you attain the goal of meditation, Arjuna. Even among those who meditate, that man or woman who worships me with perfect faith, completely absorbed in me, is the most firmly established in yoga. Amen.
There you have it.
I mean, who knows if there's multiple lifetimes? If you have full faith in the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna's word, then I guess we're doing this and refining our lowercase s self to find the uppercase s self over lifetimes.
Yeah, and that was something that I was going to mention at the beginning, but then I remembered there was a part in there that he talks about it. Sometimes it takes more than one lifetime to get there. And who knows how many lifetimes you've already spent, Gary, doing this stuff, right? I mean, chances are you've been through it a few times already, because I don't think first timers really jump into this end of the pool. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, that has me curious sometimes. I don't think it really matters because really, if you get lost in that, that could just be another attachment. And,
totally.
An inflating of the lowercase s self. I go, obviously I'm an old soul. I've been doing this for a while. Look at me. I know, I have this knowledge that I've gained from past lifetimes. That could be another attachment. So
totally.
It might be the truth, actually. It might be. Who knows? It seems like the truth, actually. But don't dwell on that either. That's not important.
No. Yeah, experientially, I think I mean, again, from my own personal experiences, I would say there's truth to it. But who am I to say? I mean, from my personal experience, I've done this before, but those could just be delusions or dreams or my imagination, right? I mean, it feels real to me. It's felt real to me in the past when I've experienced some of these other lives. But like you said, at the end of the day, what does it really matter? This is the life that you're in now here. So focus on that one.
Amen, man. Yeah. And it really just seems like it comes down to letting go of the identity of your separate self and slowly morphing into the one. It's like slowly becoming a piece of the puzzle, slowly becoming the perfect fit to the puzzle of the one. And just it's through selfish desire. We refine our selfish desire, not being the boss. It seems like that. I don't know. Powerful stuff, though. ultimately
Yeah.
leads one to happiness, I believe, right? Would you agree that like this letting go of your selfish desire, trying to find happiness and joy in those leads to true happiness and joy in your life?
Yeah, I think so. I think also another one that's mentioned in there is expectation. I think
Yeah.
that's a massive, massive one. If you're looking to, for the best bang for your buck, you want to be happier as a person, look at your expectations and try to eliminate as many of them as possible. Or again, if you can't eliminate them, at least detach from them. At least don't cling to them, because expectations can make or break
Mm-hmm.
your entire mood, your entire experience, the quality of your experience. If you have high expectations and you're disappointed, it could still be objectively a good, like a positive event, but because your expectations were so high, it now feels like a suboptimal event, right?
Yeah.
And if your expectations are really low and then someone exceeds your expectations, they might still have done something really shitty, but because your expectations were so low, it's going to feel like they did something good, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, they were only 20 minutes late instead of an hour late like they normally are. So it's like you're pleasantly surprised, right?
Yeah.
So expectations are massive, and playing with expectations, whether you let go of them, reshape them, just discovering them to begin with, I think is actually really important.
Yeah.
Anything that you can do with that is going to improve the quality of your life. And I think meditation is how you can come to discover your expectations, because most of us don't walk around with our expectations as conscious beliefs or things that we say. Like, I don't get up in the morning and say everything today is going to go exactly as I want it to, right? But that's the expectation, because when things don't go the way I want them to, I get upset. So the expectation is always like beneath the surface. So meditation and mindfulness are two great ways to uncover your expectations and your attachments, your desires, those types of things. But yeah, I think you're going to have a much happier life, or at least you're going to be a lot more, I don't even know how to say it. You're going to have a lot more equanimity in your life. You're going to be able to go through things that used to trigger you without getting triggered, which I think is extremely pleasurable, especially the first few times you do it. Like when you go through something that usually pisses you off and you don't get upset and you stay centered, it's like, ooh, you feel your power for the first time, and that's addictive, right? That becomes a new desire now to feel that power more often, right? So
power.
It is power, because people can't fuck with you anymore. Like, person insults you and you're like, tell me more. If only you knew me better, you would have also talked about these flaws of mine, right? Like people are like, oh, they can't insult you, they can't upset you. Like, I recently had a job interview and for an internal posting at my company, and I didn't get it. And I was like, that's, the lady that was telling me was like walking on eggshells. And I was like, it's all good. Like,
so it goes.
Oh, exactly. It is what it is. I just want what's best for the company. If I'm not the best fit, then, let me know how I can help from my team or whatever. So, but a lot of times people would get upset or triggered by those types of events. When you can go through that and really stay centered and not feel any kind of way about it, that's empowering.
Yeah. And it's not power in the classical sense, the colloquial sense that we have. It's a different kind of power.
It's an inward facing power, right? Traditionally, we think of power as power over others, over countries, over, the economy. But this is power over yourself and your own reactions.
Yep. Power to truly dictate how you feel about this life and the happenings of it.
Yeah. To choose the quality of your experience moment to moment. That's power.
It's priceless power.
Yeah. Because you can't control the outside world. But if you can control that, no matter what happens out there, you're going to be good.
That's it.
Right? It's the ultimate. Yeah. So that's what this whole meditation practice, the Bhagavad Gita, all four paths of yoga, I think are very worthwhile. But as Krishna says, meditation is the top. It's the foundation, right? If you can be absorbed with your mind in one pointedness in God, you're golden. You don't have to worry about anything else. But all the other yogas that he talks about, which we could probably visit in other videos, are also extremely useful, because like the job interview example, I wasn't attached to the result. I was like, you know what? I think this would be a great fit for me. I think I would make a positive impact in this role. So I'm going to apply for it. That's it. I'm not, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. I completely released, right? It's like, boom, I did my part. I did the first interview. I let it go. And what happens, right?
That's huge. That's power. Because I think a lot of us are, how do I put this? We fear failure. At the end of the day, we fear what's going to happen if we mess up or, something doesn't go our way. So when you do just approach, a job interview or anything that happens in our life, any bridge we have to cross, if you just cross it without any kind of expectation, there is freedom in that. There's something so liberating about that. Everything. You could talk about a job interview, but all parts of our life. If you just kind of approach life as a offering, I like to say, is like you're just throwing it out there. You just whatever, just throwing it out there. And yeah, I don't know, man. There's something very special about living life like that. I try to embody that in my life, just as a expectationless offering to the world.
Well, dude, Krishna talks about this in the Gita. He says, perform every deed like an offering to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything that you do, here it is.
Yep.
I'm not doing it for any other reason, right? And then whatever happens doesn't matter because your motivation is an offering to God.
Yeah.
And so whether you get the job or not, whether your podcast is successful, whatever it is, doesn't matter because you're not doing it for that. You're doing it for the Most High. You're doing it for Krishna. You're doing it for God.
Yeah.
So it frees you. It liberates you from, oh, am I going to get it? Oh, I really hope I get it. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Like, I already did my part. It's done, right? And in the Tao Te Ching, it's the same thing. Do the work and retire, right? Don't stick around waiting for congratulations. Don't stick around waiting for promotion. Do the work, retire, and then it'll live forever. That's what that Lao Tzu says. And it's the exact same thing. It's renouncing the fruits, right?
Yeah.
Perform your actions like a sacrifice and move on to the next one.
That's it. Renouncing the fruits. That's really what it comes down to, man.
Yeah. Yeah, brother. Well, this is awesome. I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, this was great. I like the focused conversation,
Agreed.
It's different, but it's I think it was very fruitful itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is one of my favorite books, as you know, so I read it every year, and it's great because it gave me an opportunity to get into a new translation, which I like. And so we can pick a different book, or maybe I'll throw down a suggestion for the next one, and we can do another like chapter kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I like the theme conversations.
Cool.
For sure.
Love it.
Renounce the fruits. There will be fruits, though. That's the thing. This doesn't mean you can't enjoy the fruits. There's always going to be the fruits of life. But when you renounce the expectation of the fruit, life becomes much sweeter somehow.
Well put. Yeah, it doesn't mean you can't eat the fruits when you get them. It just means don't expect to get them, right?
Yeah, exactly. The fruits will come. It will come and go.
Yeah. There you go. It's funny. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, but if you had something to say, then go ahead.
Well, there's just one thing I wanted to mention about the difference between Western and Eastern. In the introduction to the translation that I have, the author says, just as the essence of Judaism is love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself, the essence of Hinduism is let go. And then he says the two statements are, in fact, different entrances into the same truth, which is the beginning and the end of all spiritual practice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like those don't compete. They coincide.
Correct. Yeah.
Because when you let go comes loving God.
That's
loving
right.
Thy neighbor.
That's right. Yeah. Feeling other people's sorrows as your own, right? This is exactly what we're talking about, right? Loving your neighbor as yourself.
That's it, man.
Cool, man. Well, that was a great little Monday morning session there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, man, nice talking to you.
Always.
Thanks for coming on here, sharing your time, effort, and wisdom. Thanks for anybody that listened this long, and keep on keeping on. You're a special one.
Yeah, man. Cheers. Catch you at the next one.
Peace and love.
Cheers. Stay centered, my friends.